Real quick before this video starts, I want to make sure you guys hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, ding that notification bell so you can be notified when I upload. Also, make sure you are parked here, kicking it with me during the Browns' first preseason game. We're going to watch it together. If you have been on this channel before, you know I do the watch parties. So make sure you're subscribed here. We're going to watch the game tomorrow. It's going to be a ton of fun, but you got to be subscribed here to make sure you know when it's happening. But now back to the regularly scheduled video. We are less than 24, well, technically a little bit over 24, but we're close to being at the start of Cleveland Browns preseason football. Now, to some of us, that excites us to no end. To some of us, it's preseason football, right? Like, you know, there's a range of excitement here. So what I wanted to do, right, is to put together a list of players that I think it's going to be important to watch during the preseason. Now, again, as of recording this video, the elephant in the room is Deshaun Watson, right? As of right now, he is eligible to play in the preseason because he only has a 6-game suspension as of right now. We're waiting on the NFL to appeal process to end, and then we'll see what Deshaun Watson's suspension actually is going to be this year. But as of right now, it's 6, so he's playing in the preseason as of Thursday at 3:28 p.m. But we'll see if that actually holds up. But yes, let's talk about some players that are going to be important to watch during the preseason. I'm going to go over why each one of these players are important, what specific position groups I feel like are going to play a significant role in the season, and we're going to want to make sure that those players are up to par and more. So let's just get into it, and we're going to start with my guy, Perrion Winfrey. As you guys know, big fan of Perrion. One of the, I think, the loudest advocates for the Browns drafting Perrion, at least on the internet. I don't know what was going on in the Browns office, but I know I was pounding the table for Perrion Winfrey all summer. What I saw when I was at camp the last 2 days were pretty good. You know, he had some decent one-on-ones and actually got a sack in a 2-minute drill situation. So not terrible for Perrion. But the question with Perrion, again, is live game reps against somebody who's not Joe Bitonio. How does he look, right? Is he a starting level tackle already, or is this going to take a couple years? I have the ultimate faith that by the end of his rookie contract, Perrion's going to be a worthwhile NFL player at the very least. But I think the question is, when is he going to be ready to do that, right? Is it going to be this year? Is it going to be next year? We're going to be able to see that in preseason. And one thing that's hard to see in camp is defensive line play because the guys aren't necessarily going 100%. There's not a ton of live drills, and it's hard to be physical at the level that you need to be physical with your own teammates, knowing that you could hurt one of your own teammates and hurt your own season. It's easier when you're going up against opponents. So I want to get a better metric out of him. In that same vein, Taven Bryant is on this list of players that you need to watch during training camp. I mean, not training camp, preseason. Same deal here, right? Yeah, honestly, you know what? I'm just put the whole defensive tackle room in here. You need to watch the defensive tackles to see if they're getting sufficient penetration during the preseason, because this whole room is a gigantic question mark. I wouldn't say it's a negative yet because they're not. Nobody's proven enough to be so bad. I mean, maybe you can make the argument for Jordan Elliott, right? But nobody has been so bad for so long in their career that I can just say they're a negative off jump. But, you know, none of these guys are proven, right? Taven Bryant's unproven. Perrion Winfrey is unproven. Jordan Elliott is unproven. So to see what the Browns have in that interior defensive tackle room, you got to watch your preseason games. You got to watch these guys play, and probably within all the way to the third quarter, and see how that interior pressure is going. Are they able to get pressure? Are they holding their ground, right? Are they getting gashed up the middle? These are real questions that we're going to have about the interior of this defensive line that we're going to want to get figured out. And we'll be able to get a good eye on that during the preseason. Not a definitive eye, but a good eye on it, right? The definitive eye won't happen until the regular season. Now let's talk about another player that I think is due up for evaluation. Is Jacoby Brissett. Again, quarterback reps, especially with how the Browns do camps, where they don't do a lot of live drills, and they really do a lot of 7-on-7s. It's hard to get an eye on how good a quarterback looks, because sometimes they can look good, but it's 7-on-7, or sometimes they can look good, but it's simulated pressure, right? It's not necessarily the real thing. Thing with Jacoby Brissett, how's he going to look under pressure with real football actually going on? How will that look if you're Jacoby Brissett? And the Browns, I mean, they're going to be depending on Jacoby Brissett no matter what happens in the future, right? I believe them first 6 games, Jacoby Brissett's world, right? Whatever happens after that, whether that's Deshaun Watson, Jimmy Garoppolo, Cam Newton, whoever they bring in, if they bring in somebody after 6 weeks, that's when that will start. But up until that point, Jacoby Brissett's starting week 1. He's starting week 2. He's probably starting week 3. Well, he's definitely starting week 3. He's going to play week 4, 5, and 6. This is what we know. 6 games, definitely going to be in the hands of Jacoby Brissett. After that, but that's definitely the plan, right? And the reason I say that is because if they do sign somebody, it'll probably be something late in camp, and that guy's not going to be ready until like 4 or 6 weeks into the season. So again, Jacoby Brissett's world for 6 weeks here. We got to see what he looks like, right? If under this system, and I almost like, it depends on the length of the Watson suspension, right? Because right now the Browns have to prepare as if the suspension is 6 games, so that's why Watson's going to get reps with the ones. But let's say we find out that the suspension is 8, 12. If it's indefinite, then this is all irrelevant because Deshaun won't even be in the building, right? So let's say it's 12 games. I still want to see Deshaun Watson out there. I kind of don't need to see him with the ones, right? You kind of want to get at least one look with Jacoby Brissett with the ones, but you also don't want to put Watson out there behind the 3rd-string offensive line. But, you know, it's a tricky situation that they're smart enough to figure out there. But, yeah, you're going to want to see something out of Jacoby Brissett to give you some confidence right now. You know, I feel like a lot of the discourse behind why people are so uncomfortable with Jacoby Brissett but comfortable with somebody who I feel like is trending in a more downward direction than Jacoby Brissett and Jimmy Garoppolo. If you look at all of the advanced metrics, I've done a video on it before, just search it on my channel, about why Jimmy Garoppolo is probably not a good option for anybody going forward, especially after a shoulder surgery. But the ideal of Jimmy Garoppolo to most fans feels better than the ideal of Jacoby Brissett, because most fans aren't like me who are going to go and look at the advanced metrics, who are going to go and chart PFF and QBR. I mean, like I get paid to do this. So that is why I will be that deep in the weeds on things. I'm not saying anybody's right or wrong on that, but I do think the perception of Jimmy Garoppolo to a lot of people is far, far away from the reality of Jimmy Garoppolo. It's the same thing that happened with Jared Goff, where the perception of Jared Goff was somewhere up here, but the reality of Jared Goff is really down here. I think that's the same thing with Jimmy Garoppolo, where people have this perception of him because they have associated him with winning. His teams have been winning, but we haven't been looking at how that winning's been happening. A lot of it's been happening in spite of Jimmy Garoppolo, in spite of his turnovers, in spite of his fumbles. Like, this is not, I don't think he's a good quarterback, and I don't think he is even anywhere near his best years anymore. So I don't think there's much of a difference to me of Jimmy Garoppolo to Jacoby Brissett, hell, to even like a Joe Flacco or Andy Dalton. I really think like these are all the same level guys at this point in their careers, with Jacoby Brissett being the only one I think can go on the upturn, right? But people don't know much about Jacoby Brissett. People know a lot about Jimmy Garoppolo because he has a longer track record. And for whatever reason, Jimmy Garoppolo makes people feel better than Jacoby Brissett. But I don't think that's the reality of who would actually be better for the position, in my opinion. Not a big fan of Jimmy Garoppolo. Not a big fan of what he's been putting out. I think he's been on the downturn. He's been injured a lot. He just got off surgery from a stone shoulder. Not a fan of that idea. I'm going to be blunt about that. And y'all know, when I don't like an idea of what the front office is doing, I'll voice my opinion on it. That doesn't mean that I'm going to inherently say the front office is bad because they did something I didn't like, though. I'll wait to see how it plays out. All right, the next guy to watch is one, David Bell, right? Because we need to see, and here's the thing with David Bell, the tape and the technique and everything we've seen is good enough to where I just need to see if he has the raw athletic ability to get open in the NFL, right? Like, that's the only thing I really need to see from David Bell. If he can separate and get open against other teams' defensive backs, we're okay. Everything else he has, we're okay. But that's the question, right? Is he so marginal of an athlete to where he would be a Rashard Higgins, which would be a little bit of a disappointment? Or is he a good enough athlete in pads to be a Keenan Allen, right? I think that's the balance we're at, right? On one end of this spectrum is Keenan Allen, all pro. On the other end of this spectrum, it's Rashard Higgins, who's a solid player, but not a number 2 or 1 or 3. So that's why I want to see with David Bell, right? Is the separation there? Is he quick enough? Is some of the things that worried us about his measurables gonna hold him up on the football field? Or does he have enough of that football speed to where he'll be all right? It's different with different guys. It's different with different guys. Anthony Schwartz on the complete opposite end of the spectrum of David Bell, right? Where I don't know if David Bell has raw athletic ability to get open, but I do know that he has the skill, that he has just enough athletic ability. He'll be all right. Anthony Schwartz, on the other hand, loads of athletic ability. Have no concerns about his athletic ability. But boy, do I have worries about his skill to get open, right? I don't know if he can catch the ball consistently, because every time he catches the ball during the regular season, he's falling down. I don't know if he's physical enough to do some of the things that the Browns want that wide receiver to do. I don't know if he's physical enough at the line of scrimmage. I don't know if he's a skilled enough route runner. I don't know what specifically at wide receiving Anthony Schwartz is good at, because throughout his career, he's just been fast. He hasn't really excelled at any one skill. He's just been fast. So we'll see with Anthony Schwartz, right? David Bell, on the other hand, he's been good at everything. He's been good at danding rounds at Purdue. He's been a great hands guy, right? 50-50 ball guy, all that stuff. Sideline catch guy, route runner guy at Purdue. We know that he's good at stuff at wide receiver. We just don't know if he's athletic enough for the NFL. Anthony Schwartz, well, we know he's athletic enough for the NFL. Don't know if he's developed the skills necessary to stick. Big question there. AJ Green is another guy. Just want to see, hey, if you throw him out there as a boundary corner in the preseason, does he not get burnt? I want to see them put AJ Green on an island and really test how much they can get away with in the preseason with AJ Green the third, just because you got to know what you have there. If you're going to make this risky move, which they are making, of putting Greg Newsome in the slot, if you're going to take that risk, you got to know what you have in AJ Green before the season starts. And I would stress test that to hell. I would, because we know Denzel Ward is not playing at all in the preseason, and there's no reason for Denzel Ward to play. I would make AJ Green the number 1 corner during the preseason, put him on an island versus every team's best guy, and just see what you have in AJ Green. See what his limitations are. See where, if you push him too far, what's going to pop up. And if you let him sit, let's see what we have there, right? We kind of know what we have in Greedy. We don't know what we have in MJ Emerson, but that's what the rest of the preseason game is for. We really need to know what the Browns can get out of AJ Green. And I would stress test him to hell if I were Joe Woods, just to see, right? It's okay if he gets burnt by a top tier wide receiver, but I need to see him have the reps, right? To see where he struggles in that route tree. Harrison Bryant is another guy I want to see take a step. And that step starts in the preseason. And look, we're going to be rolling out the names of quarterbacks that we've been talking about with the Deshaun Watson potential year-long suspension. Then Harrison Bryant Got to step it up, right? Those tight ends going to have to step it up, because those are a average quarterback's best friend, tight ends. So we need those guys to step it up. But those are the guys that I have that I'm going to keep an eye on during the preseason. Let me know who you're going to have your eye on in the preseason.